We have the 8th Theater Sustainment Command, 130th Engineer Brigade, and 8th Military Police Brigade, and they're going to talk about how we're sustaining and protecting the Joint Force. So before we get started, we're going to show you a quick video of what the 8th Theater Sustainment Command is doing. Thanks.
Good? Cool. I looked at that video and I'm like, wow, we do all that? Oh, okay. No, so my name is Jared Helwig. I'm the commander of the 8th Theater Sustainment Command. And happy to have this commander's corner here and have a conversation. You know, when you look at that video and you think about the 8th Theater Sustainment Command and you look at the topic of this commander's corner, you know, sustaining and protecting the Joint Force. If you look at the organization of the TSC and you didn't put the title Theater Sustainment Command on top of it, you look at it and say, wow, that's a protection organization, right? It's got MPs and it's got engineers. And so while we often look at the TSC as the Theater Enabling Command for sustainment, we're going to spend time on sustainment, obviously, but it's important to realize that there's really two warfighting functions within the TSC: sustainment and protection. And you know, there's different facets of protection. Clearly, the protection that you know with MDTF and fires like that. But we with the MPs do a lot of counter UAS, and obviously with the engineers out there building the structures that are required both for the protection warfighting function, for maneuver writ large, important part of what the engineers do, and then for sustainment as well. So it's a great organization. It's got a very large mandate, clearly, from the watercraft you saw in there, to the work we do there, all the way through to military working dogs running around as we speak with Philippines and Balcatan, South LaNeve, to a big barge pulling out rocks up in the Philippines as well. You've heard this week already a lot about user pack priorities, JPMRC, the operation pathways, and then building joint interior lines. The TSC sits in all of those spaces, and I know that you can see how we would do the JPMRC place integrated into the overall training here in Hawaii and up in Alaska. As part of Operation Pathways, what we've been really keen on doing is putting the sustainment warfighting function into position to rehearse those key opening capabilities that would be required in any phase of an operation, from campaigning to crisis to conflict, and across the spectrum of what that means. Those things don't just happen. Those aren't just big arrows on a map. It says, you know, we're going to move equipment in here. That takes a lot of synchronization and coordination, and we've been really blessed with Operation Pathways in the last couple of years to be able to take those concepts, put them on the ground, and actually rehearse them. And in particular, rehearse them with our reserve component partners, units that we know are going to have to come in, flow in with us, and be a part of the team. Of all of these units and all of the branches that these units represent, 75% of the capability that we have resides in the reserve component. So we continue to build that as part of Operation Pathways to build our capability. But then the big one for us is really building joint interior lines. So as we use Operation Pathways to rehearse the key concepts, then we get into position, maintain position, and then build that positional advantage that General Flynn and others have talked about this week. And in that regard, you've heard, I think, probably in a couple conversations, joint theater distribution centers across the board. How do we take capability that we need for any variety of missions, from humanitarian assistance to full-up combat operations, because of the distances in this theater, and place it in key locations, build the capability, not just in terms of storage of supplies, but also of equipment, and then of key maintenance capability that might need to be done to maintain that equipment on a regular basis, just if it's going to be there, but also to provide capability if needed, if the equipment is damaged or broken in a variety of operations. So that's been a huge part of what we've done as part of this building joint interior lines, establishing joint theater distribution centers, making sure that they're open and available to the joint force, and establishing that capability that we can then expand on year after year to establish a network and joint interior lines that are so critical. Another one that doesn't get a lot of conversation, but is, in my opinion, just as important, is contracting, operations, and finance. And so operationalizing contracting, many of us who served and deployed in combat understood the importance of contracting. Contracting's been on the battlefield since 1775. It's not going away, but how you use it and how you employ it is critical. And in our theater, with all of the different locations and requirements, understanding contracting and building a contracting network that can maintain that presence in theater even after the exercises are over, but give you capability, is also very important to us. And so it's been great over the last couple of years to really explore this space and build additional contracting capability. That optimization also happens to help potentially reduce costs of Operation Pathways and others, but it's more important is the training effect, learning what the capabilities exist out there and how to pull those together. And then finally, Army watercraft. So you saw some pictures of them. If you saw or were part of Talisman Sabre or heard about it, you know, we were able to do a full joint logistics over the shore mission as part of Talisman Sabre in that operation. Great capability to exercise. Those soldiers and soldier mariners that were there are actually, some of them conducting the mission over there in Gaza as we speak. So it was a good opportunity to get that training rep and set in ahead of full military needs in that capability. We've got Army watercraft forward here as part of the TSC. We've been focusing a lot on pushing that watercraft forward and maintaining it at a higher operational readiness rate because it's a little bit older equipment. And then also integrating into our watercraft two key areas. Number one, integrating offshore support vessels or commercial vessels that we know will be required. Just like every operation, we've had commercial trucks and other capabilities integrated into our operations. Watercraft are the same way. We're never going to build enough watercraft for the military, so we have to leverage the commercial capabilities that are out there. So this year we've had an offshore support vessel supporting Operation Pathways. It's been a great opportunity for us to see how we would integrate that into our overall military operations as part of Pathways. And then the final thing is in terms of experimentation, pulling in the latest equipment. And so the maneuver support vessel Light, the newest vessel that the Army is procuring, the prototype vessel will come out here probably at the end of this year or maybe early next to do its experimentation, its validation out here in the Hawaiian archipelago. So we're excited to be able to do that at the front end, because from a sustainer's perspective, we're able to have it here doing that activity, validating itself in the environment that it will operate in. It'll also teach us a lot about what it takes to sustain it, to employ it, and to correctly integrate it into the joint force. So that's kind of some of the things we've got going on. I'm going to hand it over to the other two parts of the TSC here, starting with the engineers.
All right, everyone. Good afternoon and aloha. Thanks for coming out this afternoon. This is really a great turnout. Really appreciate it. I'm Colonel Margaret McGonigal. I've been the commander of the 130th Engineer Brigade for the past 22 months, and honestly the best 22 months of my entire career. Working for the 8th Theater Sustainment Command, General Helwig and his team, and really the soldiers that we have. It's just been incredible. So if it weren't for them, I clearly wouldn't be here today to talk about all the great things that they've been doing. So in the 130th, we have two battalions. We have the 84th Engineer Battalion, and then we have the 8th STB, which is actually General Helwig's headquarters. So we're really unique in the fact that we get to do sustainment with our soldiers firsthand along with our engineering mission. And it's a learning experience every day. We've been able to combine the efforts of those two battalions into doing some really great things out here. So there's 5 active duty engineer brigades in the US Army. We're actually the smallest with the largest theater, which I like to point out. We're the Theater Engineer Brigade for the Pacific, similar to the 7th in Europe that stood up last summer. So they're taking a lot of our lessons learned, working for a TSC, and they're carrying them over to Europe. So I just like to say that we were the first. So what does it look like to be an engineer out here? Well, at the end of World War II, there were actually 500,000 engineers in the active duty Army, larger than our total end strength today. 180,000 of them were in the Pacific. 1 in 7 soldiers was an engineer. Today, it's 1 in 25. So what does that tell you? It tells you that in some ways we're coming from behind, and how do we make that up? How do we make things happen? So today I'm going to talk about how we do campaigning in the Pacific through joint interior lines, Operation Pathways, and experimentation and innovation. So as we're looking at joint interior lines, right, General Flynn, he describes it consisting of warfighting function areas. We've got command and control, collection, protection, and sustainment. So command and control, small engineer brigade. We've got 1 engineer battalion, and we've got that STB, the 8th STB, the TSC headquarters. So we have been allowed to be extremely innovative. What we will do is we'll take our brigade TAC and we'll make it into an ad hoc battalion headquarters so that we can have some extra C2 nodes. At any given time, about 6 weeks ago, we had soldiers in 9 different countries. And so if I can put a guide on it, if I can put a company commander on it, we're going to be there. That's our C2 node. And so as soon as our soldiers hit the ground on Schofield Barracks, we say, hey, it's different out here. You're always that tactical corporal. You have to think bigger. You're representing your nation every second of every day because you're out there working with our partners. And that's extremely important. In the last 22 months, this brigade has definitely delivered. So collection. As engineers, we're always doing that engineer reconnaissance. We've got engineers on the ground. We're looking at bridges. We're looking at routes. We're feeding this back, this information into beneath these war plans, these operations, these missions that we do. We also have an extremely talented geospatial engineer team. Something that we've kind of lost sight of during the point operations is engineers own the terrain. We are the terrain experts. And so we're really trying to put our story back out there. Let us tell you what you can do with this terrain. Terrain out here in the Pacific is extremely varied, right? We have a lot of water, we have volcanoes, we have tsunamis, we've got coral atolls. And so we are really making a difference, making sure that the people we support, our partners, our allies, the joint force understand what that looks like. As we're looking at protection, extremely important, we are the ones that will connect those critical assets out there. You might have the Navy working at your S-Pod, and the Air Force working at your A-Pod. Who's going to connect them? It's going to be the Army. It's going to be the Army engineers that are on the ground that are making it happen. So we connect them and we also build out their critical nodes. So you heard the CG talk about the JTDCs. We're the ones that are going to put them in the ground, right? We're going to build them up, we're going to augment them, we're going to supplement them, and we're going to connect those nodes together. Really important out here, especially as we're looking at 20,000 plus islands. And then the last thing for sustainment, what are we doing? Well, everyone does sustainment, right? It's everyone's mission, just like force protection. We're in the motor pool doing all that. But more than that, because we are extremely privileged to have the 8th STB, we also have that Army watercraft. And that Army watercraft is out there doing great things every day, and we're responsible for their readiness. We're also looking at APS, and we're also helping that TSE headquarters, their readiness, their deployability. How do they get tags out on the ground so that they can exercise C2? And as we're looking at experimentation and innovation, something that I really want to highlight is when we're experimenting, it's not just a new piece of equipment, right? It's not just testing new equipment or new process, it's also about people. So for us, AC-RC integration is extremely important. We've got General Sequin out here, General Lazarowski, 2 of the reserve GEOs that we work with every day. We've got the 411th Engineer Battalion underneath the 9th MSC, just down the street from us. Every time we do training, we try to pull them in. 73% of our engineers are Guard Reserve. We can't do it without our reserve counterparts. So every time we have an exercise, we try to get our whole team on the ground. It's a total Army approach out here. And then also port damage repair. The Army's the lead agency for port damage repair. And so we're really looking at what equipment do we need, what tactics do we need so that we can make that happen. We've done a tabletop exercise, we pull in our partners. Almost everything we do out here is either multinational or joint. And so we're always looking for opportunities to train and to get better. And then last, Operation Pathways. You've all heard about it. It's amazing. It's the way that we campaign out here in the Pacific. And so some of the great things we've done, currently we're in the Philippines at 3 different locations. We're clearing a harbor in Bosco with our divers. We're constructing an HADR warehouse, remote island of Itbayat with our construction team. And we're also building a bridge with some of our combat engineers and construction guys at Fort McSayside, which is their large training post. Throughout the last 2 years, we've been in 15 different countries. It's been extremely gratifying to work with these partners, and they want the same things as we do, right? We want a free and open Pacific. We want peace and prosperity for our families and for all of our citizens. And so we are going to be in Timor-Leste this summer. We've got Major Jess Coffey, who's going to be our R4, our lead on it. And then Papua New Guinea, this summer and last summer, we were the R4's headquarters as well. That's the Senior Army Command out there. So we'll get some of these missions relatively small. We'll put a field grade officer on it and tell them to run with it. Make it happen, build these partnerships, do new things we've never done before. So we've become a little bit of a test pilot for DLA because we go to some unique locations with a handful of soldiers. And so they've really done a great job. We've got our DLA reps out here in the crowd supporting. Much appreciated. And then we've got some other things that aren't necessarily pathways, but partnerships that we're able to do because of our unique capability. We have the only Army